Okay, I want you to think for a second about a dream you've had. And I don't mean the weird surreal kind where you're flying or talking to a dinosaur wearing a hat.
Right.
I mean the dream that felt different. It was lucid, it was sharp, and it just had this undeniable um, visceral weight to it.
Yeah.
Felt less like a dream and more like a warning. Have you ever woken up from something like that and felt you absolutely had to check on someone? Or even like change your plans for the day?
Yeah.
Because that feeling of danger was just, it was so real.
That exact experience, that really deep, unsettling feeling where the line between sleep and future reality just sort of blurs, that's a really powerful cognitive phenomenon.
Huh. And it's basically the foundation of our deep dive today. We're exploring insights from the source material, warning dreams, the mind, and predicting danger.
Mm.
So our mission here is to get into the source's central argument. When we have a dream that seems to, I don't know, foretell an accident or an illness, is that actual precognition? Is it just a crazy coincidence?
Or is it something else? Is our brain just far more powerful, more analytical than we usually give it credit for?
Exactly. And the source material brings us right to this term it uses, dream precognition.
Mm.
But to be really clear, this isn't just any scary dream. Okay, so what is it then?
It refers to a very specific type of dream that seems to alert you to a danger before that danger actually shows up in your waking life.
And what I find so compelling right away in the source dialogue is this tension. You have that initial human reaction to just dismiss it, to say, oh, well, it's a coincidence.
Of course, the skeptical view.
But then the source insists we can't ignore the fact that the feeling of reality in these dreams is often, and this is a quote, frighteningly real.
Yeah.
It's that clash between, cold logic and this really deep personal experience that we need to figure out.
And that is the exact hurdle the source tries to clear. And critically, it doesn't really leave any room for a supernatural explanation. The analysis in this material guides us very firmly away from, magic or anything like that.
It's all about neurobiology.
It's all about the brain.
So let's lay out the basic framework here. When we ask the question, can the mind predict the future? The answer from the source dialogue is a pretty firm, unequivocal no.
Yeah.
Why is that distinction so important?
Because if we're going to use a term like dream precognition, we have to be super clear about what it is not.
Okay.
The source really hammers this home. It is absolutely not accurate prediction. It's not magic. It's not some kind of access to the unseen. If we treat it like it's foresight, we completely miss the point. We stop looking at the actual brain function behind it.
So it's not divination.
It's analysis, incredibly complex analysis.
And that's where we get to the core of this deep dive. If it's not magic, it has to be processing. And that just fundamentally reframes the whole purpose of some of our dreams. It's just, the brain it's like a massive, constantly running risk assessment engine.
Yes, and it's operating almost entirely beneath our conscious awareness. Precisely. The central theory really hinges on this idea that while we're awake, our brain is just this incessant, high-speed data collector. Our conscious minds are super selective, right?
Right, you have to be. You focus on the task at hand.
You filter out everything you think is non-essential, but the subconscious, it's indiscriminate. It's like the ultimate background process, just constantly running diagnostics on your environment.
So what kind of diagnostics are we talking about here? Data collection sounds a bit abstract, but the source points to really specific signals. It calls them the small details that we're constantly ignoring.
It does. It highlights that the brain logs these details because deep down they're intrinsically linked to potential threats. For instance, we might filter out a background sense of tension in a room.
Like at work or a family dinner or something.
Yeah, maybe a colleague is speaking just a little too loudly or the air feels charged, but you consciously ignore it to keep the peace. Your brain, though, it logs that tension.
Or here's another one. Maybe you're walking down a street you know well, and you hear a sound that's just a little bit off. A weird creak, a door slamming at a strange time.
Yeah.
And consciously, you just rationalize it. You tell yourself, oh, it's nothing. It's just the wind. But your deeper self has already flagged that noise as unusual data.
Exactly. Other things mentioned are the underlying perception of danger or risk. For example, noticing the quick, shifty movements of a strange person just on the edge of your vision.
Things you see at the corner of your eye.
Or even the faint smell of something burning that you dismiss for a second because you're running late. These aren't strong enough signals to make you consciously react, to trigger that fight or flight response.
So they just get pushed into the subconscious to-do list.
They get relegated to the queue, yes.
So basically, we live in a state of cognitive overload, And we have to intentionally ignore 99% of what's happening around us just to function. And all that data, all this stuff that's too weak or too random to make it to our conscious inbox, it just piles up.
It piles up.
So how does the dream state become the moment where it all comes together?
Well, the synthesis happens most often during REM sleep. That's when our brains are most active in processing emotional and contextual information. During the day, that data, the weird sound, the tension, the feeling of risk, it has no story. It's just random bits.
It's like having 50 browser tabs open on your computer. None of them seem related, but they all have a piece of some critical information.
That is a perfect analogy. The dream state is when the brain finally says, okay, let's close these tabs, and it tries to integrate all those fragments into a single coherent narrative.
A story.
A story, yes. It pulls those scattered details and, based on all your past experiences and risk parameters, it assembles them into a focused, story-driven warning scenario.
So the scenario is basically the brain saying, look, if you put A, the tension, and B, the strange noise, and C, the feeling of risk all together,
Yeah.
this highly probable negative outcome is what you get.
It's running a predictive risk model.
Wow. Based on all this ignored data.
It's incredibly high-level analysis. The dream isn't giving you new information. It's just organizing the existing unacknowledged information into a priority alert. And the reason the dream feels so visceral and so real is because the brain has flagged this synthesized story as being high probability and high consequence.
It needs your conscious attention.
It demands it.
That completely reframes our relationship with our own minds. It means our subconscious is just so much more vigilant than we are. And the dreams that really stick with us are often just urgent risk reports from ourselves. And that realization should really prompt you, the listener, to see your sleeping mind not as this, chaotic noise generator, but as a critical internal processor that's constantly trying to keep you safe.
And the key distinction, again, is that the brain isn't predicting the future. It's just analyzing the present. But it's doing it with a depth and a detail that our waking self filters out.
So if you walk into a building that's structurally unsound, your subconscious logs the slight wobble, the fake cracks you ignore. The dream just presents the logical conclusion of that data, the collapse.
Yeah.
Okay, but this brings us to the most compelling and maybe the trickiest part of the source, the anecdotal evidence. Even if we accept this whole cognitive analysis theory, we still have to deal with the fact that these dreams sometimes seem to be accurate in very specific, almost improbable ways.
This is where it shifts from just an interesting theory to, for the person experiencing it, a profound mystery. The source absolutely acknowledges that there are countless anecdotes, genuine, powerful experiences, people who dreamed of very specific negative outcomes, an accident, a sudden illness hitting a loved one, a specific dangerous situation, and then...
These events actually happened a few days later.
Yeah.
It's so easy to see why people would call that magic. I mean, if I dream specifically that a friend of mine is getting sick and they call me 2 days later with those exact symptoms, how do you square that with just cognitive processing?
Well, we square it by acknowledging the scientific caveat that the source provides, which is absolutely vital to staying objective here.
Okay, what's the caveat?
We have to hold the personal weight of that single powerful anecdote right alongside the sheer volume of brain activity we experience every single night. As the dialogue in the source explicitly says, most of our dreams are chaos.
Chaos is the baseline. We generate thousands of dream segments a night. I mean, if you average it out, you could have hundreds of full-scale dreams every single year.
Most of which are meaningless. They're random detritus from the day mixed with old memories.
Little junk, yeah.
Exactly. And the statistical likelihood is that if you generate enough chaotic scenarios, dreams about accidents, dreams about people you know, dreams about loss, a tiny, tiny fraction of them will just by chance align with something that happens in reality.
And our brains are wired to remember the hits.
We are. We emphasize the hits and we completely forget the hundreds and hundreds of misses.
So the real power then lies in being able to identify the signal from all that noise. How do we tell the difference between the brain just generating chaos and the brain sending a high-priority message?
The difference is in the clarity and the emotional weight, the signal quality, if you will.
Okay.
The source frames these specific, clear dreams as a pure, directed message from your brain. It's often characterized by a lack of the usual surrealism, a frightening degree of realism, and a very direct narrative focus. It's the brain cutting through all the background noise to tell you one thing.
Pay attention. something is coming.
That's it.
So if we view the dream not as a crystal ball, but as the final printout from a highly sophisticated internal algorithm, then the personal implication is. It's profound. The source dialogue ends with one of the speakers saying they will no longer ignore a strange or frighteningly real dream.
And that's the practical application. If you understand that the dream is a sophisticated risk assessment compiled from data points you consciously missed.
Like you were unconsciously tracking your parents' persistent tiny little cough for a week.
Yes. And then the dream delivers the resulting illness scenario. If you understand that, then ignoring that dream is like intentionally overriding a safety alert on your dashboard.
You're basically telling your own internal risk manager, thanks, but your comprehensive report on accumulated environmental threats is dismissed.
And that's a deeply irrational position to take, considering the sheer cognitive horsepower that went into compiling that report. The value here is in encouraging self-awareness, not fear of the future, but a heightened vigilance in the present. So as we wrap up this deep dive, the main takeaway seems to be this. These warning dreams are fascinating because they strip away the facade of our conscious filters. They reveal the incredible ongoing power of our subconscious mind to process subtle data points, tensions, sounds, strange people, all those small details.
And turning those ignored details into critical warnings while we sleep. It's a reminder that being fully informed is an internal process just as much as an external one.
That's a great way to put it. The conscious mind is a limited spotlight. The subconscious is a massive floodlight, constantly scanning the entire horizon for threats. And that leaves us with this final thought, which comes directly from this study of subconscious risk assessment. If your brain is tirelessly scanning your current environment for those small details that indicate risk, what might you be overlooking right now? In your immediate vicinity, that your brain is waiting until your next sleep cycle to communicate. Maybe take a moment to reflect on the difference between the random chaos of your typical nightmares and the genuine,